The Big 12 Experience Iowa State Cyclones 24-team preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up today using the promo code TCEESGPN to claim your special pick first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL picks and projections are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome everybody into the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, Iowa State Cyclone preview. And boy, the program's in a much better state and a different state than it was at this time last year when we did the team preview. Coming off a 7-6 season with Matt Campbell, headed into year number 9 there in Ames. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, aka the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And joining me on the Big 12 to talk Iowa State Cyclone football, well, a walking contradiction because, this guy's got family names. He was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family names, Iowa. He lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. Co-host of the Ryan and Rush Show, Rambling Rush. What is up, Rush?
Said it before we started the show, kind of starting to get into the gritty part of the Big 12, I guess earlier in the alphabet. Not a lot of expectations for this team. Yeah. Those teams, maybe minus Arizona. Sorry, Colorado fans, don't hurt us. But no, excited to talk about this team. Definitely a team that does things a little differently, especially when it comes to the transfer portal. But big expectations from this Iowa State team this year.
Big expectations indeed. And this guy's always got some big expectations because he's always fighting a family civil war, whether it's in Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, Orlando, Cincinnati, you name it. He's all around the Big 12. You guys know him as a green mowing, weed growing, Big 12 guru. Troy Chewning, what's up, man?
What's going on? Just sweating my ass off of the golf course. But yeah, we're finally getting to a couple of previews here of, I would not expect or not be surprised if Iowa State performed significantly better than what people are expecting this season. They're just one of those programs with a coach that sometimes when it doesn't look like things are that great, just like last year, they still perform pretty well. When it looks like things are going to be okay, they go above and beyond that. They're just a weird, surprising team, and makes it hard for us to handicap until you realize there's a couple of spots that Iowa State tends to hit pretty hard. So we're excited for this team. This could be a fun one this year.
Yeah, this could be a fun episode. And the next two are the two Kansas schools. Then we got Oklahoma State. So that's 4 out of the top 6 teams coming up on the next 4 episodes.
Great week. Great week, man.
Yeah, we got the bottom half out of the way early, minus Arizona. But let's dive into it. Matt Campbell headed into year number 9. 53-48, 38-34 in the Big 12. I guess on the surface, those aren't the sexiest numbers, but we have to remember what Iowa State was when he took over that job in 2016. He's done a hell of a job. Rush, I know you're a fan of this program, fan of Matt Campbell. Yeah. Just your thoughts on Coach Campbell, the era there in Ames.
Fan of Matt Campbell. Yeah, I really respect him as a coach. I don't know if I'd say I'm a full-on fan of this Iowa State program. I would say it's more of a family rivalry with the great uncle on that side of the family there. But yeah, this is a team, right, that not too long ago we were talking about when, West Virginia would play them in Kansas, automatic wins in the season, and then you had to worry about everyone else. Obviously, both schools have completely flipped that. Matt Campbell's done an excellent job. I would say my biggest question, and I talked about it when we did storylines for this Iowa State team, is the year they went to that Fiesta Bowl and Big 12 championship was during the 2020 year, which we know favors teams that are consistent. Teams that the transfer portal was still very new, so it was more about stability at that time. So I think their big question, remains is, can they do it when it's not a 2020 season and in the more developed transfer portal era? Because this team's a little bit different from last year's in terms of them losing a good bit of their team to the transfer portal, but Matt Campbell still doesn't utilize it, the way these other schools do. I think of all their starters across, all three sides, offense, defense, special teams, I think 2 of them are new guys of the 33 players that consist of that. So, hey, there's a way to do it. But then when you see a scandal like you saw last year, and you need consistency and you need a culture, they were able to take care of business there. So definitely see the pros and cons of both sides of it, but curious to see if we can still see him maintain success there, even with the lack of transfer portal utilization from Iowa State.
Troy, what's your thoughts on Matt Campbell?
Well, first of all, it's funny that we can even call it a scandal and like how overlooked it was, because we had dudes putting fake mustaches and Google glasses on with the wrong team sideline. Like, that overshadows everything. Whatever happened last year will never be a scandal compared to, having a fake coach stealing signs and stuff.
Michigan.
But they had dudes betting on games. And what a blessing in disguise it ended up being for Iowa State for them to be able to just throw Rocco Becht in there and figure out that they have themselves a guy that's, at the worst, he's going to be a gamer and he's going to keep you in games that you shouldn't be in. He's going to at least execute to the average, but he seems like a pretty good candidate to take a pretty major step forward this year and maybe throw his name out there as like, hold on, you might want to respect this a little bit. We can play football here in Ames too. When you watch some of his tape from last year, there's really, there's a couple of small things that he can do better, a couple more completions, and he is ready for that major stride forward. So, again, one of the teams that's kind of overlooked, that we certainly won't do that here because we like old school traditional football, and we're cool with Iowa State not fucking around in the transfer portal and telling kids, maybe dealing with a little bit of adversity is good for your fucking fat ass. Do something about it instead of just bitching and moaning. And I don't know, it kind of works for Matt Campbell. I'm glad that there's still some schools. I've mentioned Dabo before doing the all God thing, and like, you better like football. We're not just going to pay you. You've got Baylor doing the exact opposite, just shirts that say we pay players now. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was hilarious, but
embrace it.
Yeah, but Matt Campbell's thing is, we want guys that want to be here and we want to develop you into being an Iowa State football player, not just a football player. And there's always room for those little niche areas that are guys are able to run whole programs consistently on it. And we know Matt Campbell can. And this seems like a team that could, definitely take a few steps forward from last year, if nothing more than that.
I completely agree. And one of their famous alumni is the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. So go on over there and check out the 32 NFL team previews. And as a bonus, each team preview will include a code word. Submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be a lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts in the SGPN app. All right, so let's talk their offensive side of the ball. Troy kind of alluded to Rocco Becht, son of Anthony Becht, former West Virginia quarterback great, who played in the NFL for a decade. Now he's the head coach, I believe, in the XFL for the St. Louis Battlehawks. So family, or a football family. Rocco Becht, 2023 Big 12 Rookie of the Year. They bring back basically their entire offense. This team, they bring back 19 starters, 20 if you want to mix and match a little bit. So thoughts on the offense coming back, Troy? This is their best offensive unit potentially since that Brock Purdy and Breece Hall unit.
It has to be. I mean, you don't see the full season numbers for Abu Sama, the running back that they get back. the full season doesn't really show much, but over those last 6 weeks, he went 544 for like 5 TDs, but he had 276 yards and 3 touchdowns against Kansas State. Like, you get that back. That's kind of an unexpected position that you have. They've never had an issue. They've got that giant tight end, Brahmer, and Jayden Higgins and Jaylen Noel as wide receivers. This, I mean, it really just comes down to, is Rocco going to be able to, because he's going to be able to get the ball to playmakers on the offense, but are there going to be those 4 or 5 plays a game that he makes throws where you're then sitting back thinking, wow, that was a pretty impressive throw? You know, the good Alan Bowman games that we see, there's a couple of throws where you're like, we won't see that for 3 or 4 weeks. That's kind of a lucky one there. You know what I mean? If he can make a few more of those plays, yeah, I think that this is a pretty solid offensive group, just well-rounded. There's not like one strength to it, but that's kind of the name of the game for Iowa State is, you know, everybody kind of pulls their weight. We'll see how the big guys do up front, as we always know that's, you know, you can't really do anything without protection, but they should be able to move the ball pretty well with this offensive unit.
Yeah, there are only two guys that they got to replace for 2 offensive linemen. Rush, what are your concerns, strengths of this Cyclone offense this year?
Yeah, it's basically everything Troy was saying, and I think it is funny that their 2 transfers that they bring in are on the offensive line. That's such an Iowa State thing to do. The thing that you go out and get is to solidify that offensive line. But this team will come down to those 5 or 6 plays that Troy was talking about, and can Rocco Becht, you know, follow through, you know, do what he needs to do. I think, you know, we talk about it a lot with a lot of these teams, and the side effect of the transfer portal being, you know, there is a real concern with teams meshing and bringing in players that may have not had a couple years together and being like, all right, we kind of need you in midseason form already. But I think you obviously have a better chance of getting those, you know, 5-6 key games, 5 or 6 key plays in a game when everyone coming back is basically the same, and you have the ability to mesh there, and it should really favor them. Of course, it'll come down to their line play, but they do have playmakers like Troy was saying. They're tight end, their running back, and Rocco himself. I mean, they're either true sophomores or redshirt sophomores, so still a lot of young talent on the team. It seems like their older guys are either kind of on the line or those wide receivers. So great areas, of course, to have experience there. So it's a well mixed, well balanced offensive unit, and there's a lot of expectations for them this season, and they should be able to deliver there, especially with not a lot of turnover. So I think last year, when you have that scandal or mini scandal, whatever we're calling it, and that chaos, especially before the season, hopefully nothing comes out this year, because remember, we did the Iowa State preview, and that night it literally broke, and it's like, oh well, so much for that preview. So we're hoping that doesn't happen this year. But if you're able to overcome that at the rate that they did, and they did struggle a little early, right? Losing the Cyhawk and losing at Ohio, but then turned it around right after that in Big 12 play. So already kind of overcoming that. If you can overcome that, you know, you can overcome anything. So should be a pretty consistent year for Iowa State.
This program's at its best when its back's against the wall. So that it's not surprising that they completely overachieved when everybody wrote them off last year.
We always talk about how they're kind of like a mini Oklahoma State in that manner of, like, when you don't expect something, or it seems like everything looks really bad, it seems like it's easy for these teams to respond when that happens. Worth noting that Taylor Moser, first year as offensive coordinator, but he's been coaching at Iowa State since he basically started coaching. So very typical fashion for Ames to keep one of their own just right in-house, and we're just going to keep it moving.
Absolutely. And I think that's what the continuity of that program, and Campbell being in his 9th year. Now, let's go to probably the better side of the ball. Their defense was really, really good last year, especially in Big 12 play. I thought they were good. They were good against run. They were good against pass, good at getting pressure. They bring back 9-10 starters, however you want to swing it. They should be a dominant top 3 unit once again in the Big 12, as long as they stay healthy. Rush, what's your thoughts on this defense?
Yeah, you bring back all those starters plus everyone. All 11 of them were in the same program last year. We've already seen this unit be able to perform. I mean, even some of their losses last year, right? I mean, really can't blame the defense on some of them. I mean, that Ohio game, you still, held up to 10 points. Solid defense, and we've seen him make adjustments throughout the season. And, this is very, very, like you said, I do think it is the better side of the ball. And when you have a defense that you can rely on to make stops like they're able to, and you got an offense that, as we were just talking about, looks like they could be humming this year. I mean, that's the formula for, getting to the Big 12 championship game, or at least competing there. But a lot of consistency on this defensive side of the ball. It's going to be a very, very tough team to play. It's talking about from the West Virginia side of things, we avoided them last year, which probably helped us that, hey, we got to play them again this year. So it's a team that you have to worry about when you start playing them mid-season, that they're already in their true developed form because of the continuity that we keep talking about. Defensive side should be create real problems for teams out there.
Troy, what's your takeaways from this defense? Is basically everybody back?
Yeah, everybody except TJ Tampa, which will be a pretty big replacement there. He's playing corner for the Ravens now. You lose a guy to the NFL at that level. Still going to have, probably the idea of a couple of guys fulfilling that defensive production there. But besides that, the only thing that I ever see stand out, Iowa State typically plays 3-4 with 3 down linemen, and they try to get a little bit of pressure with the stand-up edge guys. They struggled last year getting pressure. So if there's anything that they need to, work on, it's probably getting a little more quarterback pressure. And that's where you see them. They brought in one of their other only transfers, Kennard Snyder, to come in, rush the passer. And they're like, we got our 4 guys. We're good. We're out of this transfer portal thing. Yeah, if they can rush the quarterback, they'll be even better, I think, than we saw in league play last year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this defense coming back. I'm also looking forward to Underdog Fantasy, because we are going to be doing best ball drafts here over the next couple of weeks, headed into the season. Also giving out a Big 12 lineup each and every week. So sign up with the code right above my head, TCESGPN, and join NC Nick and I later tonight. I think Noah as well, to do a best ball draft. Claim your special pick and first time deposit. Offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by, none other than Game Time, baby. If you want to get on over there and get your tickets for college football, whether you want to go to the Cy-Hawk Bowl in week number 2 at Iowa, or you want to go to Farmageddon later in the year, you do so over Game Time so that you can know where your seats are. You get the tickets sent right to your phone so that you're not behind a pole, and you can save some money. Inflation's up, so you got to save a couple bucks here and there to pay the bills or get a couple extra brewskis at the damn game. I know the Iowa State fan base loves them, some Busch Lights. So yeah, save you a couple bucks and buy another 6-pack of Busch Lights. So get on over there, download the Game Time app, and use that promo code CFBX, baby, to get the best bang for your buck. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All righty. Let's pull up their odds for the 2024 season real quick. We're not just bullshitting with how much they come back. Phil Steele's experience rank 3 on all of the land out of 134 teams. Bill Conley's production rank 1. So they bring back basically everybody from a 7-5 team, 7-6 when you include the bowl game, where they played a road game at Memphis. So this over-under set at 7.5. Blind eye, I lean to the over. 10-1 to win the Big 12, 300-1 to win the national championship. Rush, you got an early lean before we go week by week?
I would probably lean towards the over. I think something you brought up, with that Memphis game, we talked about with the Ohio game last year. You had a couple of their games where Iowa State, played in these close games, but lost games that they probably shouldn't or usually don't do. And, that might be, as we talked about, kind of what happened from their everything that happened in the offseason. And I think we tend to see, right, that things like that get corrected the following year. So because of that, I'm going to lean towards the over.
Yeah, just blind eye right off the bat. They've got to be one game better than they were last year. I know schedule's a little different, but just first overall thought, I would go over that 7.5 for sure.
And I don't know what his updated record is. I think he was 13-21 in one-score games a couple years ago, and then they went 1-6, so 14 and 28 in one-score games. I don't know if that's up to date, but this program seems to be due for some positive regression in some of these one-score games. All their losses are by one score. So let's dive into the schedule here, where we got the North Dakota Hawks, not the North Dakota State Bison, who will be playing Colorado week 1. I think we all have them beating North Dakota before we get to the Cy-Hawk Bowl.
Yeah,
I do.
And one of the reasons why Matt Campbell doesn't have a good record in the one-score games, they always lose to Iowa in a one-score game. This one's in Iowa City. They did win in Iowa City 2 years ago. It's kind of been the road team's actually been the better team in this rivalry. I probably still would lean to Iowa before we head into the bye. How about you, Rush?
I'm actually going to lean towards Iowa State in this one. I think, there's something about the previous year leaving a bad taste in their mouth. And it was still a pretty close game last year. This series has a tend to be kind of like an every other one. Exactly. And it just feels like because of that, Iowa State is due. And I think this is their real first big test of, before they get to Big 12 play of seeing the team that they have and seeing what they're capable of. And I think after this game, a lot of the national media will shift their focus to Iowa State.
Yeah, this seems like the one that you would lean to Iowa in, but with this many returning players for Iowa State, they're kind of the Iowa in this matchup. Like, this is almost an Iowa-style football team in the way that they kind of built it the complete opposite way that the rest of the country is doing it in today's game of football. I still think, you lean the home team here for unbiased purposes this early in the schedule, but Iowa State beating Iowa on the road here could be the start of something pretty special if they're able to pull that off, even if it's 16-13 or something really, really dumb like that.
I get the schools pulled up here. 20-13 last year, 10-7 2 years ago, 27-17, 18-17.
Man, that's football, baby.
And then you had a 13-3. So
it's gonna be a close one.
Great game. Yeah, it's gonna be a great game. There's 5 of Matt Campbell's one-score losses right there. So they gotta get over that Hawkeye hump that they just seem to always find a way to lose that game under Matt Campbell.
They got a week off right afterwards too. So.
I know, which is nice, and I think it's well timed after a physical Iowa game. From there, they got Arkansas State 3 across. I think we have them. So Russia has them 3-0. Troy and I got them at 2-1.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and then we go into Big 12 play at Houston and then Baylor.
I think they win both of these. Yeah, I do too. I think it's a good time to be at Houston, as we believe. And Fritz, it'll take him a second to get that going. That's not really an away game that should scare anyone. I think Iowa State actually might travel pretty well to that game and be just fine. And then, Baylor at home. That is actually usually an always pretty good game. It seems like when Baylor and Iowa State play, that always seems like a close game. But I think Iowa State edges them out.
Yeah, getting Houston in week 4, like we've talked about earlier, it's a nice time to grab them when they're still building. I think in the Baylor preview, I gave Baylor the win here. So I'll go 1-1. Also, again, for the sake of, I still think they're going to get a couple of these teams here in the future that maybe two of my co-hosts won't be happy about me saying that they're going to get, but I'll have them at 1-1 through those two teams.
Don't worry, Troy. I'm Benedicting myself all over the place.
Yeah, well, Baylor did win their last time that they played. That's also, like you said, that Iowa State, Oklahoma State's been a great series. Iowa State and Baylor's been a great series.
Great one.
Iowa State and West Virginia played the last couple times have been good games. The last time they played, Brock Purdy, final year, got it. The Mountaineers got it done. If they are 4-1, I think they'll be ranked, and they're going into Morgantown, so that's a loss. Rush, you're 5-0 with them. That's going to be a loss, I assume.
Yeah, that's the storyline for me, and I don't even mean that from the bias of us, being West Virginia guys. It seems like when they come to Morgantown, we usually are able to get them there, and then when we go to Iowa State, last time that we literally played them at Iowa State, that was an ugly game. We got our butts handed to us. So yeah, last time I was at that game, beat Brock Purdy. That was great. And I think we hand them their first loss in Morgantown. Morgantown is a tough place to play.
Oh yeah. Troy, I assume you probably have a win from what you teased out to get them to 4-2.
Yeah, I have them at a win here, mostly because, luckily you get Houston early on, but going on the road to Iowa and then Kansas, Utah, and West Virginia, that's not that great of a road schedule. For the sole purpose of now Kansas, you're playing at, Arrowhead or the soccer stadium, whichever one it's at. Kind of a weird little juggle that you have to throw in there. Morgantown's not the nicest environment when it comes to the home fans up in there, welcoming an away team and, making it comfortable for them. They're liable to have the fire alarms go off and wherever you stay. But I have them going to 4-2 here, beating West Virginia. I think this is when you see Iowa State kind of realize that they're a competitor in this league and really have that 10-1 Big 12 championship shot really isn't too scary when you see the number.
Yeah, and this would be a big game from I think how we're going to forecast UCF. UCF's not going to win in Ames. Not in the cold, not late October. So I got them 5-2 headed into the second bye week. Rush 6-1 for you.
6-1. UCF isn't winning here.
Yeah, I have them just because they're playing home. UCF, they would need the most incredible performance ever from KJ, basically doing it on his own. I'll take the returning all but 3 people team over a UCF team coming into, again, not a great environment for away teams to be welcomed up there in Ames. Not too much going on besides the football game. There's a lot of pressure on you when you come in there. So that'll have them at 5-2.
Yes. Me and you got them 2 losses. Rush has them 1 losses. 3 games coming out of the bye. Texas Tech at Kansas, Cincinnati at home. They're going to beat Cincinnati at home in Ames. But I think they split that Tech and at Kansas game. The only asterisk is it's at Arrowhead, which is kind of a home game for Iowa State with how they travel to the Big 12 tournament in basketball. You know what? I'm going to flip. I think they win all 3 of these. Coming out of the bye. So I got them at, is that 8-2 headed down the stretch?
I think they beat Texas Tech at home. I think they lose at Kansas. It seems like when Iowa State and Kansas, play, that always seems like a good one. And I think Kansas is going to be due to turn around things this year. Obviously, that requires Jaylin Daniels to be healthy, but we'll see about that. And then I'm not worried about Cincinnati there. So I have them at 2 losses right now. So I think we are on the same page, Ryan.
8-2. Troy?
I think I'm going to have them win all 3 of these games too.
So all 3 8-2. Here we go.
Yeah, I think maybe you see Rocco have his best game that he's ever had in college at Kansas, and maybe the defense makes a couple of plays on Jaylin and they eke that one out. I'm not really scared of Cincinnati's running attack against a defense that's ready to eat you alive if you want to play that Big Ten style football. So, yeah, Iowa State's looking real good.
I think the Big 12 kind of showed their hand a little bit here that
Mhm.
they think Iowa State's going to be in the hunt.
Yep.
Finishing with Utah and K-State. I do not think they're going to win at Utah. That's for damn sure.
I agree.
They won in Manhattan last year. Give me K-State to get revenge in Ames. The road that's another series lately like that Iowa State game where the road team has had success. 10-9 2 years ago in Ames and on Halloween weekend under the lights. And last year was in the snow. So give me them to drop their last two to finish 8-4 on the over. Rush, how about you?
I'm with you. I think they dropped their last two too. I think they lose at Utah, and Farmageddon might be to go to Arlington. I think this is grinded out game, maybe your classic 10-9 game, or 11-10 winner goes for two at the end. But I do like K-State getting revenge here, and obviously a lot of us are we'll talk Kansas State here later in the week, but a lot of emphasis on Kansas State getting to the Big 12 championship game. And this is probably that game that solidifies it if they're going to go there. So I'm with you. I think they drop their last two, go 8-4, which is pretty solid season for them. And you do hit that over by half.
See, I kind of see them as a 9-win team, but I have a feeling that win does come in the bowl game. The way, Kansas State playing for a chance to go to the Big 12 title is going to be a really tough game. Even if we write off that Utah game, which seems to be the consensus here, that, road into Salt Lake City is not really a positive chance for coming out with a win, especially with what we're expecting out of Utah this year. I do think there's a chance they get Kansas State at home, but that's kind of the model for the program they're trying to run would probably be Kansas State, and I don't think they're quite there at that level. So it's hard to give them this win this late in the season with that much on the line. It's kind of the opposite of the play, there's not a lot of expectation for them, and they're going to perform well. You get to the end of the year and you've got these two major games with all this expectation. It wouldn't be surprising to see Iowa State come up a little bit short there. So I'll have them at 8-4 as well, on the over. But I do think there's a chance that they could get that Kansas State game.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a one-possession game. I mean, last year was a shit show in the snow. I think it was double overtime, and then the year before 10-9. That's a great series. It should never be fucking played in Ireland. That is the biggest joke ever.
Yeah, that's awful.
Next year, that's terrible. Play that in Ames. Play that in Manhattan. That was the worst news. That's the worst thing that Yormark's done so far. As great as he's been, that's the worst decision by far that he's done, in my opinion.
And not protecting the rivalry.
That's true, because Farmageddon should be played every year, especially with how good these coaches and programs are. Real quick, we'll go ceiling and floor. Let's talk about rhythm real quick, because their models are out on the horizon. College football, NFL, you're going to want to build your custom model so that you can be ready for week 0 in the college football here in less than 3 weeks. And NFL week 1 is around the corner. Let's go, baby. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we're also brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa is back, bigger, better than ever. Don't have your trip booked for the Ultimate Contest weekend? Well, shit. It's August 22nd through 24th at the greatest sports book in the world. Ryan and Sean will be out there. Use this code to save you a couple bucks. SGP15 to save 15% off your hotel room for the sign-up weekend. Sign up in person at the Circa, or you can participate in the proxy from anywhere. And we have a deal with the proxy. Go over to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. All right, let's talk ceiling and floor. Ceiling is Big 12 title game. Big 12 championship.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got 19, 20 starters back, however you want to shake it. I think if you're looking at the schedule, the losses would be at Utah, and then you protect home field in Ames, and then you lose to at West Virginia or at Iowa. You split those two road games. So
Yeah, I
10-2
was gonna
is
say,
my feeling.
I think from 8-4, specifically how I had it, getting Iowa and getting Kansas State would put them at 10. And I think that those are two very, very gettable games that we've given them losses. I don't think any of us gave them those losses thinking, no matter what it is, we're hammering the points on some other team or something like that. Like, no way. 10 wins, I think, is your ceiling and possibly winning a Big 12 title.
I think that's the storyline. 10 wins is their ceiling, but I got to be honest. I don't see it. I think 9 is their ceiling. I do think if you do go 9-3, obviously one of those losses has to be at Iowa. If you have 3 Big 12 losses, you're not going to Arlington. So for them to go to Arlington in the Big 12, that loss against Iowa that's the loss that you would need there. But I mean, I think it's gonna be really hard for them to win 10 games. Like, I see more than 2 losses in that schedule. I just really do.
Well, their schedule's not bad, except the road games. The road games that they drew were shitty. Utah, West Virginia, Iowa, and
I agree.
then Kansas.
But no back-to-back road spots either. So
yeah, the home games are great. The home games, they should really run through the table, minus maybe K-State. So the floor, with that said, let's say with those tough road spots at Iowa, at West Virginia, at Kansas, I know it's kind of a neutral, at Utah, say that they go 1-3 in those, they lose to K-State, and maybe they drop a home game, another one in there, maybe a Baylor or UCF, 7-5? Is 6-6 on the table?
I think 7-5. I think this is, I mean, we have to look at other schedules and preview, but to this point, this is the closest floor to ceiling ratio. I think it's 7-5 or 9-3. That's the range I'm giving them.
I mean, I could see them, specifically how I had it out, losing West Virginia and UCF, even though I gave them those 2 wins. I could then see them, I don't know, maybe at Kansas is also a loss. So 6.
I'll tell you the game that I think is weird.
5.
Is that Texas Tech game.
Yeah, off the bye.
Yeah, we're kind of looking over it too.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question mark right there, and will be the litmus test for the rest of their season.
Just based on Kaysen in the chat, how do we feel if they go to Iowa City and they win a game like 24-14?
How do I feel? I think that
are we then like, oh no, maybe this is a 9-win team that we're.
No, I mean, I just think you got to go to Utah, you got to go to Morgantown, you got to play Kansas in Kansas City, and you got to play K-State. I mean, those are 4 hard games that most likely you're going to split, and they'll probably drop another one somewhere along the way. I don't know.
So
what about you, Rush?
I
think
think
6-6 floor. I'll go 6-6 floor just because they do have a history of losing a bunch of 1-score games. Say that they don't win those 1-score games again.
I'm still on 7-5. I think the biggest, like I just was saying earlier, I think we're overlooking that Texas Tech game. I think that's a very fascinating game that could be in a nice little sandwich spot for them.
Well, 3 across, 8-4, all in the over. Do you sprinkle 10-1 to win the Big 12? I think so.
Absolutely.
I think so, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you see what their odds are to make the college football playoff, and if it's better than 10-1, you go ahead and sprinkle that. It seems to be really funny that the odds are not taking into account that the conference champion of these, the now Power 4, get auto bids.
Yeah. The Iowa game kind of doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, to be honest.
No, that's what I mean. It's like it's literally just a hype game. Like whether they win or lose is not too much.
If they lose the Big 12 championship, it does. If it's coming down to the 11-12 seed, hell, it may come down to them and like Iowa for that 12th spot.
Yeah, they got to enter. I think that they're going to have to enter with 1 loss if they get to the Big 12 title.
Even like whoever loses,
they're already starting that SEC narrative.
Whoever loses that Iowa State game in the event that it were to be, between those two schools and a couple other ones, it's still going to be, the recency bias matters way more. How they perform the last 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Like, it's still going to come down to them having to get Utah or Kansas State.
Sure.
Yep.
Which is going to be tough. We know that, but that's the reason why they scheduled those games the way they did. I mean, we've seen this in multiple Big 12 sports. Like, whoa, why are these two schools playing the second to last week of the year?
UCF,
I guess
UCF and Utah, K-State, Iowa State. They're telling you which games are going to be for the Big 12.
I agree. I was just going to say that those last couple spots, a Big Ten team like a Wisconsin, a Penn State, maybe even in Iowa, could be vying for one of those spots. And if Iowa State beats Iowa and say one of those Big Ten teams have lost to Iowa, that's where I think it has the effect there. So we'll see.
They're going to try and screw the Big 12 anyway they can.
Of course they will.
That's what I could guarantee, that it's going to be SEC, Big 10 bias, but hopefully we can get 2 in. That would be great.
I think we
can. But the schedule's got to shake. Anyway, we're all on the over Cyclone fans. I love Ames. Rush loves Ames. Troy loves Ames. It's great place. The Cyclones, baby. Take a shot on that 10-1 to win the Big 12, baby.
Absolutely.
We will be back tomorrow to talk Kansas Jayhawks, then Kansas State Wildcats later in the week. So, like I said, the lineup is loaded this week with some really good teams. We got the bottom half of the league out of the way so that we can start diving into these teams that we think can get to the playoffs. Troy, what you got going on before we get out of here, man?
Playing with my buddy Pat and a member guest over the weekend. So wish us luck on that. I think we can get like $800 if we win. So
nice.
Yeah, you could throw it on 10-1 to win the Big 12 for the Cyclones. Rush, what you got going on other than healing up?
Yeah, check us out, Ryan and Rush Show. We're doing kind of our version of the Big 12 previews, kind of bringing on some local media people. So check that out for a nice deep dive. We start tonight, bringing on Utah. Bren, as everyone knows here on the show from last year. So check us out over on the Ryan and Rush Show, and looking forward to the season starting here soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, go check out the Ryan and Rush Show. Bren was on last year. We'll go 7:00 Eastern tonight. And Iowa State fans, you're on our schedule this year, so we'll have a Iowa State representative as well to talk. Rocco Becht, Matt Campbell, and the Cyclones. Brock Purdy, you know the drill. He's at Troy Chewning. He's at Rambling Rush. I am at Moneyline_Mac. We are the Big 12 College Experience, and we are out of here.